Hello and welcome to episode 10 of On the Bench. If you build aircraft, ships, armour, automotive, science fiction, figures, or space, this is the podcast for you. In this episode, we're going to be having a look at large-scale models. Also, we're going to be having our usual segment of What's New in the Modelling World. On the Bench is available on iTunes, and now we're also available on Stitcher. So go right ahead to your favourite podcast app and mark us down as your favourite so you don't miss any episodes. And hello and welcome everybody, and we're back for episode 10, and with me today I've got Ian. G'day Ian.
G'day Dave.
And Julian's back.
Hello.
How are you, Julian?
Yeah, good.
So what have you guys been up to since the last recording?
Not a great deal actually. I have not been on the bench for a whole week.
Has it got something to do with the weather we've been having down here in Melbourne?
I'd say so, mate. Yeah, it's a bit warm in there.
We're in our fifth straight day of above 30 degrees Celsius.
Yep. And
So
there's no end to it.
No, maybe Monday if we're lucky, so
Yep.
breaking a few records there.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Julian? What have you been up to?
Sort of in the same boat. It's not good because I've been doing a lot of brush painting lately, and brush painting doesn't like acrylics don't like heat, so they tend to dry out really, really, really quickly.
So I'm surrounded by fair weather modelers.
Pretty much, mate. Yeah. If the weather's not good, forget it.
I think it's called an air conditioner or something like that.
Yeah, I know. I might have to invest in one of those.
All right, let's move right on to the next segment, What's New, and then we'll move on to the other segments we're coming up for you, which should be a great show today, actually, talking about large-scale models. There's a whole heap of stuff out there we can talk about, but first coming up, we have What's New. And what's new in the modelling world? Well, first up, we'll start with Trumpeter. Trumpeter announced their December 27 releases. And first cab off the rank, we got a 1/35th scale Terminal High Altitude Area Defence, otherwise known as THAAD. This model length will be about 340 millimetres, 103 millimetres wide, with a total part count of 750. They also include metal parts for the tube, with a total of 20 sprues, which also includes the cab and the tyres. Next up, from in 1/72nd scale, Trumpeter also producing the Shenyang J31. I think it's called Gryfalcon or Gryfalcon. Anyway, it's the Chinese version of the 5th generation strike fighter, and comes with the normal ubiquitous small amount of photo etch, which I'm not quite sure where else you'd use that. But total parts 110, sprue count 10 sprues, and it also includes the clear parts as well. Next up, we have the DPRK Haisong 5 short-range tactical ballistic missile, I should say. Again, 1/35th scale. This is a surface-to-surface short-range tactical missile, which was derived from the Soviet Elbrus missile, and also based on the famous Scud-B, which of course was used during the first Gulf War.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Just getting my facts straight there. Also, they're going to be releasing a 1/16th scale Russian T-72B1 main battle tank with reactive armour, which that feeds quite well into our next subject when we're talking about large-scale kits. So that looks like it's going to be quite a nice little kit once it's built. From Tacom, they've got two new variations on some of their kits. They're doing the Makava Mark II And also looks like they're expanding on two of their popular designs, which is the King Tiger Os B. That's also going to be in 1/35th scale as well. From Tamaya issuing a Easy 8 Sherman in 1/48th scale, and also German Assault Pioneer Team and Goliath set. Now, I'm pretty sure this is a Reeboks. That's that one with that little like remote controlled tank that the Germans used during World War II to take out armour. And I'm 99% sure that's actually a re-release. So keep your eyes open for that. From Zuki Mura, 1/32nd scale HS 129B Henschel. Now this is quite an interesting kit because they've got quite a lot of different gun parts that come with it, so you can build it in quite a number of different models. Again, it's being in 1/35th scale. 1/32nd scale. It's going to build quite a large kit. They also...
Yeah, they're bringing out a KI-45.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, the KI-45 as well. Again, in that scale. But the Henschel is all the different types of armament that it comes with makes it quite a interesting kit to build. So you can sort of vary it in a number of different designs that it came out with. So that looks really good as well. And lastly, I think we've got from the announcement that was done in Model Show in the UK. I'm having this heat causing me to have a bit of a... Telford, thank you. That's right. HK Models, Hong Kong Models announced the new Avro Lancaster Mark 1 in 1/32nd scale, and that is due for release in early 2018. That's going to make a huge kit. Absolutely massive. Yeah. So we'll be talking a bit more about Hong Kong models because they almost exclusively, I'd say, build in 1/32nd scale, and they produce a number of kits in recent times. So that's all I've got from what's new. What about you, Ed?
Nothing from me, mate. No,
Julian?
Not exactly my area of expertise. I don't pay attention to what comes out.
You just buy it when it comes on the shelf, mate.
Buy it when it comes on the
It's
shelf.
better that way because then you're never waiting.
And it's always a surprise.
Well, I had to go with your attempt to buy the B36.
B36. Left a couple of emails. I got no response, mate.
No response.
Yeah. So they must have been flooded with emails, I'd say. They must have slipped through.
Well, hopefully for you, they might build more than just 100.
Well, yeah, there is a rumour they may be expanding it.
Well, if the demand's there, you should hope so.
Yeah.
Oh, well, wait and see.
That we will, mate.
All right, so coming up next, we're going to have a chat about large-scale models. And we're back to have a chat about large-scale models. So when we talk about large-scale models, it really depends, I guess. It's not just the actual scale itself, but it's
a subject.
It's a subject as well.
Yep.
So you can have large-scale models even in 1/44th scale. And I'm thinking maybe stuff like the scaffolding and the launch towers for like the rocket kits.
Oh, yeah, like for the Saturn V's and so forth.
The Saturn V's and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess in tanks or armour, when we're talking large scale, we're talking 1/16th.
Yep.
Aircraft kits, 1/32nd scale upwards.
Yeah.
Yep. And ships, we're talking perhaps
1/72nd.
1/72nd scale, 1/200th scale as well. I think I'd throw that in there as well.
Submarines, 1/35th.
Yeah, 1/35th as well. And for cars and trucks, again, 1/16th scale, even 1/12th scale.
1/12th as well, yeah.
Yeah, I think as well. So
it was Tamaya did 1/12 scale Formula 1.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So there's a whole vast range of stuff out there in different scales. And the reason why I guess we're talking about large-scale kits is because large scale kits sort of produce their own sort of problems and issues, but at the same time they produce their
wow factor.
wow factor and satisfaction. So before we actually dive into having a look at the different, ones in aircraft or tanks or ships and that, we should sort of think about, well, if you're going to build a large scale aircraft, is it something that you should tackle as a newbie, or is it something you should sort of wait until you get a bit of skill under you?
I'd say wait till you got some skill under your belt.
Yeah.
And the other thing you got to also realise with aircraft, large scale aircraft, is they take up a lot of space.
Well, any of your large scale kits take up a lot of space. I mean, I made the fatal mistake even in 1/350 scale. I excuse me, I had this aircraft carrier that I bought that won't fit any of the shells I've got. So I've got
Is that your SX class?
No, the SX class fits in. It's the Chinese aircraft carrier.
Oh, right,
It
yep.
just won't fit. So again, space is a big consideration. So you got to think about, well, where are you going to display this thing once it's actually built?
Yeah,
And how can I display it once it's actually built?
exactly.
I think it was Hong Kong models with their B-17 that came with a little attachment so that the attachment screws into the wall, so you can actually hang your model on the wall.
Yep.
Yeah. So I thought that was really looking at it from left to centre, or outside the box.
Yeah, I'm not really keen on hanging aircraft on the wall.
No,
That's-
I can't
To
say
me,
I would be either.
Yeah. A large scale plane like that, if you're doing something that big, you do the old coffee table build.
Yeah.
Build a coffee table
tables
around
are cool.
Yeah, build a coffee table around it.
But the Tamiya has an F-16 where in 30-second scale where you can take the tail off, the rudder type thing, and it goes back into the box that it came in.
Yes. Yeah, Tamiya does that with a few of their kits, actually. They've got like
really?
separate...
Well,
Some of the ship kits that have got that option.
Right. I didn't know that.
So for basically for transportation and so forth.
Ah.
Which is a good idea.
Transportation.
Yeah. Well, in case
That's
you take
usually
it
an
to a
afterthought,
show.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So have you guys built large scale?
I have in the past.
Yep.
Built a couple of 1/16 and 1/12. Built a 1/12 scale Formula One car years and years ago. That's long gone now. Built a couple of, I can't remember if they were 1/12 or 1/16 scale. Built a Shelby Cobra and a 68 Shelby GT500 Mustang.
Oh, very nice.
Well, that was many years, and they're long gone now, mate.
A couple of years ago, you built a 30-second scale Mustang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the what was it? The Boeing F4B4. That'd be the other large scale, like call it large scale, 72nd scale German Schnellboat.
That's right too.
Which, that Revell kit, if anyone's got it and they haven't built it yet, build it. It's a great kit.
Yeah, yours turned out magnificent.
It's a beautiful kit.
Yep.
Easy to build,
Yep.
and it's just wonderful.
Yep.
Very enjoyable.
What about you, Julian? You got anything in on your bench that you built?
When I was younger, I built a Hasegawa Focke-Wulf 190. That was not a very good kit, and I was not a very good modeler back
Is that
then.
the old Hasegawa boxing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was only like 15 at the time, and that I've got first-hand experience that as an inexperienced modeler, 30-second scale is not really not a good way to go.
No.
Especially
And it was a pretty complicated kit from my memory, because especially the exhaust system, because it had an engine, didn't it?
yeah, it had an engine
and
and
you had
everything.
those, and the Focke-Wulf exhaust system's never a fun thing to do anyway.
Yeah, actually, I didn't have any trouble with that. The trouble I had with it was a massive wing root
Gap. Yeah.
huge, and you can't really clean it up. It's all raised detail, and it was disaster.
Old school kit, mate.
Disaster.
Raised detail.
In more recent times, I've done haven't finished, but I've closed up the fuselage on a Tamiya 30-second scale Corsair.
Yep.
That is probably the best kit I've ever seen in person. It's as far as I'm concerned, that's like the pinnacle of
Engineering.
Yep. Just fit, panel line detail. It's just mind blowing. It's an experience in itself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got a few still in the collection to build in 30-second scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a Hasegawa 109 G6, pea shooter. There's a few others there that I've got in the 30-second scale range. Trying to think what else. There's a few.
So the first thing you really got to think about, I guess, is as I said, space. But the next thing you consider is, the cost, because they're so damn large, the kits themselves are very expensive.
They are.
Yep.
The prices can go right up.
The prices
unless
go-
you go for the old boxings, as Julian did when he was younger, get the old boxings of the old Hasegawa 32 scale kits.
Yeah.
You can usually pick them up at a swap and sell pretty cheaply.
Well, I remember not only a couple of years ago, Hasegawa came out with a new Zero. I'm not too sure if it's actually a Zero or not, because I'm not good with the Japanese aircraft.
Yep.
But A6 something or other, and I remember thinking, well, what's the point of that? Don't Tamiya have a kit in that sort of space that would blow it apart? And apparently it appealed to the more sort of, Japanese aircraft connoisseur type people, because it's it's a hell of a lot cheaper for starters. It was also sort of a thing with the variants that it's like, it's not quite the same thing as the Tamiya kit, and something along those lines.
Yeah, true.
Well, speaking of Tamiya, they brought out the big tank series, didn't they? All in 1/16. So they had the King Tiger, the German Kumpelwagen, the early Tiger.
They've got quite a
Leopard
few
main battle tank.
sort of halfway between a regular model kit and halfway to a
Radio control.
yeah kind of thing. Yeah,
A lot of them were sort of designed, the Tamiya ones, to actually be converted to radio control.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
But very basic radio control.
Yeah, that's right. So the accessories for large-scale kits, I mean, exponentially, of course, you're already spending big dollars in the kit themselves, but to get accessories with them, the cost seems to be comparably high as well.
Oh, yeah.
it's with armor. A lot of the appeal is scratch building, because there aren't much in the way of interior and other type things that can go in there.
Yep.
I know at a model expo earlier this year, there were the winner of the 35th scale armor category was that 16th scale. Was it
the Yak Tiger?
Yeah.
Mm.
And that was impressive. I mean, because with the scratch building, you can go to town in that scale.
The guy even had a book.
Yeah, he had a book.
Made a book. Book on his build.
But if you don't want something quite so large, but you want to still go large scale, then I think my choice would be the 1/16 scale FT-17 by Tacom.
Yeah, yep.
I mean, it's a very small tank.
Yes.
So you almost want it in a larger scale.
Mm.
Assuming you're not scalist. There are a lot of people like that.
Oh, there are. Yeah.
I'm one of them. I tend to stick to 35th scale.
Constant scale, mate.
Yeah.
Constant scale.
It's good to have points of reference for size. And
Yeah, and I'm the same. I'm a constant scale. I think I'm a constant scale builder. All my submarines and ships are all in 1/350 scale.
Yep.
And that's only because you can got that good reference point there. You can sort of see the different size between the ships, and you get an understanding of what they look like.
Yeah, and how big they really are.
Yeah, I mean a German U-boat type 7 compared to a modern day boomer that the Ohio class that the US Navy runs. If you got them in the same scale, sitting side by side, it really it's a huge visual impact.
Oh yeah, like I exactly know what you mean. Like I've got built the U-boat Laboratorium Mustadea on Bashi, which is a Turkish captured French World War I submarine.
I'm impressed on your pronunciation, the fact you can remember the name.
And like you put that up against the Japanese, I think B1 class, the what was it, the I-25 I built.
Yeah.
And it's massive. The I-25 is a massive submarine.
Yeah, it is.
And
It's
then
huge.
you want to go bigger for Japanese. Well, then you look at the I-400.
Yep.
It's a big sub. But then looking at large scale subs, that one I picked up straight after Expo, the Type 23 coastal submarine in 1/35 scale. That's nearly a metre long. That's huge.
Well, so within the ship category, seeing we're sort of talking about that now, we'll talk about the scale versions there. So in recent times, a popular scale that's come up is the 1/200 scale for ships.
Yes.
And that's been extremely popular. And you get aircraft carriers, you can get battleships in 1/200 scale. I think maybe it would have been Trumpeter perhaps led this new...
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And these kits are just massive, absolutely huge.
Yeah, but you're looking at easily 12 plus months building time.
Oh, yeah. And then there's the then there's the additional cost of all the aftermarket parts that go with it. But the detail, and I guess this is the real key thing about large scale models, apart from the visual impact when it's sort of sitting on in your collection when you finish building it. It's the detail that you can get into these things because they're so large.
They're large, yeah. So you can get more detail into them. You can pack more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. And so from the 1/200 scale ships, then we go up to
1/48 scale submarines.
1/48 scale submarines, absolutely. And again, they're huge at that scale.
Is it Trumpeter that's brought out the Type 7?
Yeah, I think it might be actually.
Yeah, in 48 scale. That thing's massive.
Didn't they bring out a U-boat?
Yeah, Type 7
Yeah,
U-boat.
Type 7 U-boat. Yeah.
That thing's
Sorry, I'm not
huge.
a naval person.
That's all right.
And from there we go to 1/72nd scale ships, and this is where you start to get into the convergence area between radio control stuff and static model display stuff.
I think it was it Matchbox that started that really trend off with 72nd scale with the flower class.
Yes, you're right there. I think you're spot on. And that's been one that's was easily converted to radio control. I know I've seen quite a few pictures of it being converted. There's a group here in Australia that do radio control stuff, and they call themselves Task Force 72.
Right.
And they build only in constant scale, 1/72nd scale. And the stuff that the detail that these guys can pack into it. If you recall back, we had Russ French on back in the very first episode. He's one of the guys who was sort of one of the founding members, I think, of this particular club. So he's got himself a DDG USS Winston.
Right.
And in that scale, he's actually got the vertical launch system where it actually fires rockets out of the VLS. And there's guys who build aircraft carriers, and they have small radio controlled aircraft that can actually take off, or helicopters that can take off from the aircraft carriers as well.
Wow.
So it just because of the large scale, you can do things like you can get the radar turning around and all this really cool stuff, which, as a static model builder, you'd never even dream of doing or think of doing.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. And on top of that, these things float and go through the water. So all sorts of quite whiz-bang things they do.
Well, then you can sink them.
It'd be a shame to make something so big and it not actually float.
That's true too. I think in the US there's a radio control group, but they were mainly building ships, boats in 1/96 scale. I don't know. I haven't seen much online in recent times whether they're still doing that or not, or the name of the group. But just as a little branch off from that, there was another interesting thing that popped up. I think it's back in the 80s or so, where guys would build ships, and I think the scale was around 1/96 scale, but they'd build them purely to sink them. So each ship would have like little air-powered BB guns on them, and they'd just sail and sort of shoot each other.
I've seen that, yeah. I believe they make the bottom part of the hull out of fiberglass, and then the upper part is made out of balsa wood, so it can take damage.
Yes, that's right. So.
Well, then you had that guy in Germany when he built the Tirpitz or the Bismarck, and he built it that big that he could actually sit in it.
Yes.
Those look so weird with the guy's head sort of positioned. Is that a scale head?
It's a barrage balloon.
But then again, I mean, and that's what, if that floats your boat, excuse to use a language, and you want to build something that, but they're really the one-off things, aren't they? They're not just
definitely. That's like something like a once in a lifetime build.
Yeah, I reckon it'd take you a lifetime to build.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, so let's have a look at some cars now. So car model kits, they come down. You can get them in 1/12 scale, 1/16 scale. There's some lovely kits from cars in 1/16 scale, and they're quite rare to get hold of now. Like there's a 57 stock Ford Thunderbird, which just looks beautiful. I would love to get my hands on that one.
What year is it?
It's a 57 Thunderbird.
Oh, right.
So it's got that real flat back
boot.
Another one. Yeah, and just looks gorgeous, two-seater.
I think there's actually quite a few like large-scale sort of car kits out there these days, I mean, I think Italieri did a few of those old-fashioned, like the Mephisto Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did something like that. And then, Tamir's got a couple as well. There's
the Formula One range.
Yeah.
the Rally Datsun 240Z and
Then you got Revell Monogram. They did like I think a 32 coupe.
Yeah.
There's a few different cars, Mustangs you can buy, and
I believe we went up against at the Waverley Interclub event.
that
There was
the
Trumpeter.
What was it?
GT40, wasn't it?
Yeah, 65. I think it's GT40 or 65, 66 GT40.
Yeah,
And the Golf colours.
That, while we're on that, one thing that I find interesting is like some large scales are more popular than others. Like 32nd scale aircraft gets its own category at modelling events, whereas with armour it's sort of like 35th scale and up.
Yep.
So the 16th scale guys can compete with the 35th scale guys. And
Yes.
That's a real sore point for me too, because, in the ship category as well, it's sort of 1/500 scale or and lower, and then one through, I can't remember what it is. But you're getting all these mismatched scales sort of competing against each other.
But you got to also look at it in this way, that if they had a category for each individual scale, it'd take the judges forever.
well,
And it'd be more
once
confusing.
if they ever get popular enough that you got enough competitors,
Then they will.
Yeah.
Then they usually do. What I found especially with Melbourne Model Expo, if they find after a fair few years that the numbers are waning, they'll combine categories.
Yeah.
Just so there's enough on a section and it's basically to keep people's interest.
Yeah.
You don't really want to look through an area and go, oh, there's one or two kits in that thing. You'd rather go, oh, there's a heap of kits there. Let's have a good look at it.
Yeah, well, as an organisation, you sort of lose credibility if you just have a category with one guy in there and he wins it by default.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a
Too
terrible
true.
model at that.
Yeah.
But as a punter sort of walking around having a look, and I see one category with just one kit in it, and I see that that's one by default, I'll sort of think to myself, well, geez, I've got a kit at home that I should have entered because that would have beaten that one hands down. So it in some ways it's not a bad thing, because then next year that person's more likely
you
to
find
enter.
that as well. Yeah.
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 So
But that's just the roll of the dice.
Well,
isn't it?
I mean, it is an event that goes for several days, and there's no reason why you couldn't come in the next day and put something in.
you couldn't. No, you got to enter it by 11 o'clock in the morning.
You can always go home
Well, you could, yeah.
if you live locally.
Yep.
I think people have done that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, well, that's I'll bring us back on track now. There we go. So we're talking about cars still.
Right.
And as we said, because of the large scale, with 1/16 scale cars, you can almost get them to concourse condition, can't you?
Oh, definitely. And there is a bit of aftermarket available for large scale cars as well. And yeah, but the thing with cars is, I think building a car is a lot more difficult, because everyone knows what a car looks like. So you've just got to step up your game that one step further to make it look as realistic as possible.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because, and this might sound really dumb, but with model cars, they'll look like a model, or a good model builder will make it look like it's a scaled down real thing.
Exactly.
And that's a difficulty with model cars, I'd suggest.
Yep.
Trying to make it not look like a model, but look like a scaled version of the real thing.
Exactly.
You can achieve that a lot easier with aircraft, tanks, and ships and spacecraft, but cars, for some reason, even trucks.
Yep.
I think it's in the paint. It's in, because a lot of the car guys tend to go for that super glossy look, but it kind of looks like a too shiny model and not enough like
Scale gloss.
Yeah,
I know what you mean,
it's a very hard to define kind of thing, isn't it?
And dare I say it, some of them almost look toy-like, and that's not what you're trying to achieve. You want to try and get it away from that and bring it back to looking like a real thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, mate.
That's why I don't build cars.
Oh, they're fun. They're fun to build.
And of course, at that scale, you can get a lot more things in. You can the steering wheel can move the front tyres and suspension.
Doors can open and
close. So you can muck around a lot more with that in cars, and you can say in other types of kits as well.
But I always find having more movable parts gives people the idea to let's play with it. That's what you don't want.
That's a good point, yes.
That's what happened to my Formula One car.
Oh, no.
Younger cousin came round and smashed it into the wall.
I'll also point out that, with all large-scale stuff, I mean, the advantage of the larger scales is scale thickness. You can get closer to it. For say for example, in cars, you can get those spokes. In the spoked wheels, you can get them the right thickness. And, with armour, you can get your brackets and your leather straps and things like that, all the right size.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that all sort of counts.
Absolutely. All right, well, before we move on and talk about aircraft and tanks, let's take a short break. If you have a particular subject that you'd like us to talk about, or you're a model manufacturer or indeed even a model reseller, and you'd like us to review a particular subject or kit, you can get in contact with us on the following email address: onthebench64@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, so drop us a line. And we're back to continue our discussion on large-scale kits. So now we're going to be zeroing in on aircraft and armour. So let's start with armour first of all. Again, the beauty about building is in this scale is that you can, especially in 1/16 scale, is that you can get so much detail into it.
Yeah, that's right.
So much detail. But this is where also the larger the scale, and to make it the more realistic, you got to really start looking at, well, what is the kit giving you? Has the kit given you parts enough to make it look realistic? And I'm thinking in particular here like the tracks, and even with armoured cars, the road wheels, whether they've got a bit of sag in the bottom of them or not. So this is where you're going to start thinking about, well, maybe aftermarket stuff just to help sort of, bring it that extra step to make it look alive. Especially with the things like the track sag on tanks, for example.
Yeah.
You're only going to really get that effect if you're doing individual links or using the metal tracks.
Yes.
Especially on that scale, it works so
metal
well.
tracks would be quite expensive in that scale too.
Yeah, but it works so well, wouldn't it? It works so well.
Yeah, but on the other hand, in that scale, you should be able to see. The thing is, with the metal tracks, you got like wire that you use to hold the track links together in 35th scale. But in 1/16 scale,
you'd have to have pins.
Yeah, you'd have to have proper pins, proper rods and things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like some of those tanks, would have screws that actually hold the pins in.
Yep.
And you'd have to actually get that done properly, because that's the thing, is like once you go up to that scale, there's no excuses. You can't hide things under the fact that it's small anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess that's the point too with large scale kits. You got nowhere to hide.
No,
if you make a mistake,
it's there.
Yeah, it's there. It's there for the whole time. So you're going to be really bang on. Paint. So you're going to be using a lot more paint when you're building these kits.
Definitely.
Oh, geez, that's expensive.
Definitely.
16 scale armor. That's a lot of paint.
I know.
Yep.
I know.
Oh man.
What's the name of that manufacturer that makes the all metal tanks?
Oh, is it
Model Factory Hero?
Model Factory Heroes.
Do they also do the big scale stuff?
They do.
I'm not too sure.
Maybe there's a company that does
with cars, maybe, but not so much.
Because I know there is a company that does those really big all metal tanks.
Yeah,
and those things they price up in the thousands.
Oh, they would absolutely. But then you know
how heavy they'd be too.
I mean, they're almost you almost wouldn't want to paint them because they look so gorgeous just in their bare metal.
Yeah, exactly.
It all looks the same once you put paint on it.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that's true. And of course, up in the 1/16 scale, you're sort of starting to get in the area of the radio controlled stuff as well.
Yeah.
Which I've got to say, it's come a long way in regards to how they look now. I mean, if you sort of hark back to 20, 30 years ago, radio control stuff would just look like a toy radio control stuff tank now. But nowadays, you know, they're sort of getting to the level of the detail they're putting in like a static model and just looking absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah. And you look at the Tamiya offerings of the Tigers, and like they've got the sound
Yes.
The LEDs in the barrels.
Oh, that sounds terrible to me.
And it's just all over the place.
Well, you can actually buy your little, sound cards and program the sound cards in so that, when they're sort of accelerating, you hear the engine whine, it's spooling up, and, when they fire.
I know that a friend of mine's got I think he's got a King Tiger.
Yeah.
And when he fires that thing up, it has the sound of the engine starting.
Yes.
Incredible.
And even the recoil of the gun, I've seen some model kits or radio control kits that when the main gun fires, you see the gun sort of pull back as well.
Yeah.
Just magic what they can do these days.
If you got the money for it.
If you got the money for it, yeah.
Sorry, so one thing I'd like to touch on is that having seen really good award-winning 16 scale armor, one thing I take issue with is that in 35th scale armor, you're seeing some amazing molding of like rolled steel texture, like on the Meng King Tiger and stuff like that. But you're not seeing that in 16 scale because the 16 scale kits aren't obviously up to par with really good 35th scale kits. And it's hard to, like, you'd have to actually put that texture in yourself. That's not easy.
No.
Like cast texture is not so bad because people know the old put the Mr. Surfacer on and use a brush and all that sort of stuff. But how do you do that in 16 scale?
For rolled steel?
Yeah, rolled steel.
It'd be difficult.
Yeah. I mean, it's an elusive thing. Like, that's what I mean. Like, once you go up to that scale, it's like, well, there's no excuses anymore. There's detail in the smaller scales that you have to include in the larger scale. Otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly.
That's exactly right. Unless you're just going to build it for your own, enjoyment and pleasure. But like you said, you have the expectation that when you're getting at those larger scales, you should see the detail even more so than you would in 1/35th scale.
And just imagine all the attention to detail with the tools and there's nowhere to hide. I mean, the expectations I have of a 16th scale kit is probably higher than you can get in any kind of box.
Yeah, and if I was building at that scale too in armour, I'd also want to be able to sort of see the interior. So I have an expectation the kit would come
with the roof off or
with
something.
The full interior or the ability to take the turret out to have a look inside as well. So...
Yeah. But I think
just see the dollar signs ticking over. Tick, 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 tick.
Well, that's why I think probably large scale planes has quite a larger following than the other sort of large scale categories. It's got more room. You can get your trailing edges nice and thin.
Yeah, we also got to realise that large scale aircraft have been around a lot longer than large scale armour.
Yeah.
So they've had the experience, and they just keep refining them.
Yeah, and you can you can go to town. Like, there's lots more sort of areas to improve without having to cut the roof off. You can put your brake lines in and avionics and.
Yep.
Well, we've opened that can, so let's have a look at have a talk about large scale aircraft then.
Yep.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I've been building the Corsair, the Tamiya kit. Amazing kit, but there's still room for improvement. I mean, out of the box, the instrument panel is actually got proper clear gauges for the instrument panel. The way they've done it is they've had the actual panel with holes in it. Then you've got a clear piece that comes in behind it that gives you the gauges, and then a decal that goes behind that. So you get the proper curvature on each of the lenses on the gauges, and but that's not to say that you couldn't put in a resin one. There are resin kits for that scale, and they improve on the detail even more so.
See that, and that's the thing with the cockpit. I mean, even with the canopy closed, you're going to be able to see the detail standing out quite nicely.
Yep. Nothing to hide.
Nothing to hide. Nowhere to hide. In 1/72 scale, you can just whack the canopy on and you can't see through it.
Well, that's right, yeah.
And like, you should be able to, like, in that scale, you should be able to see the writing next to each little switch.
Yeah, all the placards.
Yeah.
All you can get all those usually aftermarket anyway.
Yeah.
Placard sets, yeah. But the biggest aircraft kit I ever saw personally, I think it was a HPH kit, 1/12 scale Messerschmitt 262.
Wow.
That thing was huge. Fiberglass body.
Wow.
Fiberglass.
Yeah.
Because that's strength.
Yep.
A lot of the 32nd scale aircraft guys go with the white metal landing gear. Yeah, because otherwise they can't support themselves.
Exactly. Especially you got something like tricycle undercarriage where you got a very, very thin front landing gear.
Yeah. Well, I know some aircraft kits, like the Russian aircraft, have very weird.
Oh, like the MiG 27s and so forth.
Yeah, they got like very weird the way they've actually designed the landing gear. I think it was like with the weight of the model, it can actually make them sort of splay out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've just seen something on Facebook recently. This guy spent so much time building this MiG kit, and exactly that happened. He put it down, and then just purely because of the weight, the landing gear sort of splayed out, and it looked like it was sort of a bow-legged.
It had a hard landing,
and he was gutted. He was absolutely gutted.
You would be. You spend all that time on it just to have that happen.
At least you can go back and fix that, because you can get some aftermarket stuff and just rebuild your undercarriage and do it in white metal. So,
well, you also get those people that who have got enough money to have a little lathe at home, and they make their own.
Yeah, yeah, way beyond my technical skills.
Yeah.
And another thing of interest to me is, like, if I was building 32nd scale aircraft, I would paint most of my markings. I mean, you could probably get away with decals for a lot of the stenciling.
Well, Montex makes markings for so many 32nd scale aircraft.
Because if you put like decals get harder to work with the bigger they get.
Exactly.
Some of those markings get huge.
Well, I've got a
massive roundels.
Hasegawa G6. I've got 109 G6. I actually purchased some. I think they might be Archer dry transfers for all the stenciling, and a Montex set.
Mm.
So really, I'll be using 2 decals on it, and that's it.
That's cool.
And if I'm anything like Chris, who was here last episode, I'll probably stuff one of them up.
Yeah, I've had bad history with dry transfers, and I wouldn't go down that route again.
I don't mind them.
No,
don't mind them.
No.
If there's a couple of good YouTube videos on how to do it, especially through Archer. They've got a couple of really good ones to step-by-step how to use them, and I've used their technique and found them to work a treat.
The issue I had, I was building the USS New York, which is an LPD ship, and I got the Pontos aftermarket detail set, and the rear deck is actually brass. So I painted it up, put it on the back of the hull, beautiful. And I went and got the dry transfer set, which details the landing area on the. And as I'm gently rubbing it in, the paint's coming off from the brass underneath.
Oh, because of the flexing. Did you etch prime it?
I did, but I still cried. It just didn't work.
Even with etch prime.
Even with etch prime, because you got to understand, you've got brass, and even though you've etch primed it and you're painting on, it's still a fairly weak surface to bond to for the paint.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start introducing any type of rubbing motion, it's going to have an effect, and it certainly had an effect. Yep. So yeah, there were a lot of tears.
Oh, that's no good, Dave.
Jeez. I mean, now that you mentioned that to me, like I would think if I had to do that, I would. There's not too much way you could improve upon that. I mean, you did all the preparation that you probably could.
Yep.
The only thing I can think of is maybe hit it with some sandpaper to rough up the surface a bit more, give it more sort of tactile stuff for all the paint and stuff to stick to.
Oh, it gets worse because then I thought, okay, I'll take off the brass etched deck, but I'd glued it down so hard that the plastic, I made an even bigger mess of it.
You actually bent it.
Well, I
creased the brass.
I ended up throwing it away. I thought I'd just go back to bare plastic, but because of all the glue I'd used underneath, I spent hours and hours just trying to sand all that glue off. Oh, it was a mess. It's still it's a shelf queen at the moment. All right, so back on the aircraft, painting of aircraft. I mean, with the painting of large scale, you've got absolutely nowhere to hide, have you?
No,
nowhere whatsoever.
No.
And I guess with large scale too, it's really critical if you're doing your pre-shade or your post-shade stuff to sort of just bring out those, enhancements of the of what the aircraft would look like, from photos, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's like paint chipping is not something you can get away with by just dabbing on some silver.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
No, you'd probably have to use the old wet effects or the chipping effects and so forth.
Or the old hairspray technique.
Yeah, hairspray technique.
Yep.
Because you want to have that variation in the depth of the paint to the chipping.
Yep.
Which you can get away with in 48 and down.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and if you're going to put chipping on the outside of the plane, you better put chipping on the inside too.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
And you think how much, like you were mentioning before, Dave, with HK bringing out the Avro Lancaster.
Yeah.
Imagine how much black paint you're going to go through.
Well, that's true. That's
like
true.
I built the Tamiya 48 scale Lancaster.
Yeah.
And I went through, I think, nearly 2 pots of guns on that thing. That's a lot of black paint.
It is a lot.
Jeez. Yeah, you'd probably want to almost go with, like, mix up something, like maybe sort of decant or rattle can or something, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, something like that, yeah. But then you're looking like, not actually 32nd scale, but as we were talking earlier about the new HPH Peacemaker. Imagine how much Alclad or bare metal foil you're going to use on that thing.
Alclad, you'd have to go Alclad. But
It'd
that would
be
cost you a fortune.
astronomical.
Yeah, cost you an absolute
Well, the
fortune.
wingspan's 1.5 metres.
But then again, if you're spending €550 to buy it, I'm pretty sure you get enough money to buy
Yeah,
enough
exactly.
paint.
Yeah. Too true. Too true.
And then you got to find somewhere to put it.
Yeah.
That's expensive too.
Yes.
Well, yeah, so
That's,
that goes-
that's definitely a coffee table model.
Absolutely. So that goes back to what we
Yes.
said at the very beginning. You got to consider these things before
Yeah,
you even start
yeah.
building them.
All your difficulties and money and costs, they just all sort of multiply in every direction, don't they, once you go up to later scales?
Yeah.
But even with large-scale models, I followed a guy who built the HK models, B17. I think it was a G model he built. And he put all the detail inside, just so much detail. And he spent a whole heap of money buying aftermarket stuff to go inside. And once it was all closed up, he said he could hardly see it, so it was sort of a waste of time.
Yes.
So even in large scales, you got that problem where, how much do I put into, going inside?
Yeah, well, basically, you put in what you can see.
Yeah.
Like when I did the Lancaster, I detailed the interior, but anything behind the navigators was basic.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to see it.
No. But you would have thought that, a 1/32 scale, B17.
You're going to see a little bit through your side windows where your side gunning positions are, but that's really basically it. And even that's going to be quite obscured.
Well, he detailed all the where the radio operator sits and then.
So you're not going to see that. You've got this tiny little window at the top to look down. Yeah, well, you're not going to see hardly anything.
Unless you're going to light it up inside.
I think it's
Some people
it's
do
one
that.
of those sort of trappings, where people think, I'll detail this up because it's easy. I mean, when I say easy, I mean easy can adding detail to that portion of the kit is quite easy compared to sort of looking at the plane overall and going, how can I add weathering to this large thing?
Yep.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
because all the little details, the actuators and things for the movement, all the surfaces, and
Yep.
all these sort of things come out that you wouldn't otherwise have to think about in smaller
Like something
scales.
like that, you'd build in sub-assemblies and paint it all and then glue it together later.
Yeah.
That'd be the only way to do it. That's why I did the Lancaster, the 48 scale Lancaster. I had to do that in sub-assemblies because there's no way I was going to glue the wings on that. Not till the very last moment.
And I guess more
Just
so with
trying to
aircraft.
paint the thing
And I
with
guess
the wings on it.
more so with aircraft too, you got to really hope and pray that the manufacturer's got the engineering right.
Yeah.
Because if you're building a 1/32 scale, 4-engine bomber, if they haven't got the internal engineering structures right, in a couple of years' time, you're going to see these wings drooping or falling off and these gaps opening up.
Yeah.
So you've really got to hope that
So you find a lot of people now use brass beams and brass rod
Yep.
just to give it that extra rigidity.
Yep.
Yeah, they start to, and the engineering involved almost has to be like the real thing.
Yep.
Main spars and
Yep. Exactly.
Yep. But even in recent times, when they build, I mean, I think Airfix did the 1/24 scale, was it Typhoon?
Yeah. Walker Typhoon, yes.
Yeah, and even then they got something wrong, so an aftermarket guy or company came along and did a fix or a patch up. I think it was that the air cooler underneath
Yep.
was the wrong shape or something like
Yeah, I
that.
think it
Or
was Barracuda may have done that.
yeah, something like that. But even then, just the costs and of buying resin in that size to sort of as a fix up for something that the manufacturer sort of missed.
Well, I remember when I did my Boeing F4B4. That's the old 70s Hasegawa kit. and like the engine of that was one piece, and it just was like a blob with a couple of fins on it. Luckily, Vector, they did a engine set for it in resin. Bit pricey, but absolutely magnificent engine.
Yep.
Which was a beautiful thing to build. The only thing you got to do is make your own push rods. And I was wrapped with the way it looked. A little stenciling at the front of the engine and everything. But then you got the cowl cover. You put that over the top, and most of it disappears. But like I scratch built pretty much 90% of the interior on that thing.
Wow.
And I think I bought some aftermarket master barrels.
Yep.
Gun barrels. Because particular aircraft I was building had a 30 and a 50 cal rather than two 30s, which was fun because that meant I had to buy two master sets. And these beautiful gun barrels in 32nd scale with all your perforations on the barrels and the cool on the jackets of the barrels. Mm-hmm. Once you put them in the kit, you can't see them. Why'd I bother?
Yeah.
Why did you bother, Ian?
Exactly. Because it was there.
I guess an aircraft type that really lends itself to large scale modelling would be the biplanes with the rigging, because it'd make
from
doing
like
the
wing nuts
rigging
kits, yeah.
just so much easier, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, and also with biplane rigging now, like people used to have to buy Bob's buckles, which were the guy done a great job on his buckles, so they're all handmade. But now you got a company called Gas Patch.
Gas Patch, yeah.
And they do sets of buckles and all sorts of goodies for these wing nut kits. And like I've got an Albatross D5A, I think it is sitting at home, one day to be built. I think I must have spent more on aftermarket on that thing. And that's a wing nut kit. And everyone says wing nut kits are brilliant. And yes, they are. But as with all plastic kits, there are improvements.
Yep. Well, just a case of how far you want to go, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the turnbuckles and things, the equivalent of like photo etch for other kits. You know, there are some things you just need to have in metal at that size and
exactly
and thickness.
But the scale just makes it easier to do the rigging, though.
Yeah, and with biplanes, World War I biplanes, 48 scale biplanes are tiny.
Yes, they are.
Whereas in 32nd scale, like even the Albatross, it's not a large kit.
No.
But it is big enough that you can cram a lot of detail and have a really nice looking kit.
And it's big enough to work on as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you make a good point because, like, biplanes, they're quite at home in 32nd scale. But in other 32nd scale aircraft, once you get to World War II prop fighters, they're getting bigger. Jets, they're huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, where are you going to put something like that?
I remember years ago when I was a very young lad, when Tamea bought out the F-14. And that was a big kit in 32nd.
Yes,
but
huge.
I think it was this interesting thing. I'm pretty sure it was, the front nose section was all recessed panel lines, and from there back it was all raised. So I don't know if they ran out of money or someone got their wires crossed, but it was really weird.
How long ago was that?
Oh, geez, 20 plus years, 25 years.
That's still quite a relatively sought after kit.
It was a good kit, but I didn't do it justice back then. I just used rattle cans, thick paint, glue everywhere. I was a youngster. I was enjoying it. It was a big kit. Saved up my pocket money for nearly 6 months and bought one.
Big, thick decals.
Yeah. Tamea, fix your decals.
You mentioned the 24th scale Typhoon.
Yes.
Before.
Yeah, the FX, yeah.
The interesting is in sort of tying in with the whole rolled steel texture on 35th and 16th scale armour. In the same way with aircraft, you've got the oil canning effect, which that Typhoon has.
Yes.
But not all other kits in that same sort of scale have it.
No.
And I've seen the FX 48 scale Walrus, and that has oil canning.
Does it?
On it.
Already done in the mould.
Yep.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Still waiting to get mine.
So if you can get it in 48 scale, it's like, anything bigger than that really should have it.
And that's where it's good with. I mean, I've noticed some guys who are doing 1/72nd scale subs. You can actually put that detail into the kit. You can get a Dremel and sort of just.
You got to be careful you don't go overboard. I've seen some online and people have gone way overboard with the oil canning.
Yeah.
Yep.
In 1/350 scale, I'd suggest you probably better off with a paint effect. to try and replicate it.
Mm-hmm.
But 1/72 scale, and you really need to sort of have it there. And if you look at the pictures of, World War II destroyers and submarines, you know, they were heavily pounded when they were sort of operating in the Atlantic, and you got real oil canning sort of you could see as as the metal sort of bending in. But even modern warships for that, they suffer from that. Well, not suffer from it; it's just the way they're manufactured, and it's not necessarily a thick piece of metal, unlike say a battleship. You're not going to see much oil canning on a battleship because of the thickness of the steel they're using. So that larger scale lends you to sort of do the oil canning effect. But if it's interesting, you say the Airfix already got it pre-molded in. That's good.
Yeah. You got to think how much it'd cost the company to do all that extra detail. Because they've got to make money on the thing too.
Well, this is the other interesting thing about large-scale kits is that they're limited release. I mean, the Airfix didn't produce a lot of the 1/24th scale Typhoons.
Right.
So you'd think that, by the time you produce the moulds to build the darn things and do all the engineering drawings and all that type of stuff, it's a pretty expensive exercise. Well, obviously, they've done their sums and said, well, we need to sell
X amount
to sort of get our cost recovery and then make a profit. But even so, large-scale kits, they don't have big runs like they do in 1/72nd scale or 1/48 scale.
I have heard that they did really well. FX did really well with the
Typhoon.
With the Typhoon, it actually pulled them away from the brink of disaster.
Yeah, that and their Mosquito, their 32 scale Mosquito they brought out.
Hong Kong model, speaking of Mosquito, they do a Mosquito in 1/32nd scale.
Yep.
Hong Kong models, they're...
Yeah, I've heard rumours they're also going to do a 32 scale Marauder. Now, that'd be a nice plane. Yeah, we all like the Marauder.
Well, they already do a B-25, which is my favourite.
They do B-25 in a couple of different variants.
Yeah, H nose and the glass nose.
Yes, and they do a Meteor in the same scale.
Yep.
I love a good B-25.
B-17 in about 3 different variants as well. So,
but also, still talking about large scale, but not. This is actually 1/35th scale in aircraft. I think it's HPH do a Messerschmitt 323 Gigant in 1/35th scale.
Oh my god,
for the armour
huge.
builders. Oh, it's massive.
Wow.
Well,
absolutely massive.
It's much more common to see. 35th scale is kind of like an armour scale, isn't it? But the funny thing is, it's the norm for helicopters for some reason.
Yeah.
Well, because helicopters are that small that they have to be at that scale.
And plus they always work around armour and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, so it makes sense to have
35th scale Hind. Have you seen that? That's not small.
That's a big kit.
That's a big kit.
That's a big kit, mate.
But if you the Hughes 500 Little Bird, I think it is, a Little Bird they used in Vietnam. That's in, I think Kitty Hawk just released that in 1/35th scale.
Yeah, and, that's the one they use for the Mogadishu.
Yes, yeah. And that's not really a large kit in 1/35th scale.
No, not at all.
So,
but they're out there.
They are.
And they are. It's a large scale kit, something you can, if you're prepared to, if you've got the patience and you're prepared to spend the time and the money, go for it.
Well, helicopters are a weird thing to me because, you've got a relatively small fuselage, but its footprint is massive.
Yeah, with the blades.
So it's almost like you go up the scale to get like a decent size, decent amount of detail, but then it just takes up so much room.
Unless you do one of those naval helicopters where you can fold the blades back.
Yeah, but then you see the blades folded back, and you're like, I wish the blades weren't folded back. And the same thing with naval aircraft with the folding wings.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think I've ever done it with the wings folded up.
I've done one.
Because to me, you fold the wings up, most of the times it's going to obscure the interior, the cockpit.
You're going to do your walrus with the wings folded?
No.
Okay.
No, that's just going to be painted yellow.
I think Trumpeter do a 32nd scale swordfish, and you can fold the wings on that. But
because they fold back, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Fold back along the fuselage.
Yeah, and at the same time, why would you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
You want to model it as it's sort of sitting on an aircraft carrier, so why not have them folded back? I reckon it looks all right.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea on aircraft that can also be in a, like, for example, a Seafire. I did a Seafire with the wings folded up because everyone knows what a Spitfire looks like, right?
Yep.
So there's no problem with it having the
and
wings
also
folded.
having the wings folded, you put it next to a standard Spitfire.
It's like, it's just another Spitfire, right?
But then you go, oh, these standard Spitfire. Oh, look, this one's got folded wings.
Yeah. Oh, that must be a Seafire.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's why I did it.
Well, the same with the Stuka as well. The JU-87, the navalised version.
Yep.
They look really cool with the wings folded back.
They sort of folded back and on a 9-degree angle.
Really cool.
Probably they only built one of those.
They built one.
Yeah.
I thought they built more than one.
Oh, they may have, but I've only ever seen photos of one.
Oh, okay. Prototype.
Yep. Well, the carrier never got finished.
It didn't, did it? It didn't. All right. Well, I think that brings us pretty much to the end of that. Again, guys, thanks very much for listening. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can feel free to drop us an email at onthebench64@gmail.com or go to our Facebook page, On The Bench 64. Leave some comments there. Any parting words, Ian?
Enjoy your building, guys.
And Julian?
See you next time.
Okay, guys, see you for our next episode, number 11, in a fortnight's time. Thank you for listening.